Hello everyone, I'm Coach Keto Rowe and welcome back to my page. And today we're going to be doing lesson number 2 in the 5 S's, which would be lessons from my cancer journey. And these are lessons, if you missed the first episode, these are lessons that I had to learn about mindset when I was diagnosed with breast cancer going on 6 years ago. So if you're watching and you are someone who's been diagnosed, or you are someone who is caring for someone who's been diagnosed, then hopefully these lessons will be beneficial to you. And these are also lessons that we can just use in life. So today's lesson is going to be smile. So let's get into it. So last time we talked about survivorship, and that was a mindset that I had to get in my head as soon as I was diagnosed. The fact that I shouldn't immediately go to gloom and doom and focus on survivorship, which means there was things that I had to do in order to keep myself strong through my cancer journey. So the second lesson that I learned about mindset was smile. And I would also extend that to say not just smile, but laughing and enjoying life. And this lesson came to me after the initial shock wore off from my diagnosis. I was only 32 years old. I didn't know of anybody in my family that had breast cancer and had always been healthy. Like up until this point, I never had any type of surgery or any type of real serious illness. So it was a shock to my system. And then once I accepted that, then it was time to talk to my doctor about my treatment plan. Now, all of this started in about August of that year. And so when I talked to my doctor, he let me know that I was going to have a lumpectomy, have the lump removed, and that I would also need to have some rounds of chemotherapy, and then after that, some radiation. So what that basically meant for me is that that year I was going to spend my holiday season in chemotherapy treatment. And then after I finished chemo, which ended up being about April, I believe, then I had to go into radiation. No, I think it was January, and then I had to go into radiation, which was a lot easier than chemo, of course. And that can be a very depressing revelation for somebody who is used to being active. I had just really got into the role I wanted to get in, to progress my career. And also was and am a single parent. So I had 3 young kids that I had to care for by myself. If my kids needed to go somewhere, I had to do it. I had to pay all the bills, and do everything. So it was a little depressing at first. And I didn't have of course, I didn't have a spouse. And if I had to be honest, that would be the one thing that I had to fight myself to not be bitter on, because it's hard enough to take care of kids by yourself and a household by yourself, but I just couldn't help thinking, and kind of questioning God, why at this moment don't I have somebody at least to help me out with that. And I'm sure that that is a question that he will fully answer for me one day. But I just resolved to the fact that God knows what he's doing, and there was a plan for all of this. So I fought that mindset, and I realized pretty early in that if I was going to make it through this, it wasn't going to be easy, that I was going to have to find ways to smile and still enjoy life. And the main thing about that, to me, is that you're already fighting a battle for your health. And if you're doing that and your life is also miserable, where is your motivation to fight and get through it? And I guess, I always grew up kind of thinking of cancer patients as people who laid in bed all day and people who were sick all day. And really couldn't get up and had to be catered to. But what I found out very quickly in my cancer journey is that things have progressed for a lot of cancer patients um, in today's world to where we're still living a full life. I actually, I, I had just started my job, so I didn't have enough disability time to take off at the time. So what I had worked out with work is that I would actually start to work at home during my treatments. And I also set it up with my oncologist to where I would go for my treatments on Friday because I figured out that they really didn't hit me, hard with the side effects until 2 days after. And then after that second day, I was able to get up again. And so I worked it out to where I kind of was the sickest on the weekends when I had to take my chemo. Um, and one thing that strikes me when I went for my first oncology appointment was the fact that, I was very down in the dumps, very down in the dumps. And a very good friend of mine, she actually took me for my first appointment. And she was so wonderful. She was so inspiring. And she gifted me with a gift while we were there. Well, I'll go back. I can remember walking in and I was down and I was depressed. And I looked around and I saw these people with no hair, apparently, or little hats on their head to keep their head warm. But everybody was smiling and seemed extremely happy. And I just thought, what is wrong with these people? Like, they're here for cancer treatments. What are they smiling about? And while we were sitting there, she pulls out this cup, this pink ribbon cup, and she was like, you are going to be a part of the solution one day. And she hands it to me and she's like, you will get through this. And I kind of thought about it and I'm like, I really do feel like God has a purpose for me, when I get through that. And so I started to say, I started to say to myself, none of us knows the amount of days that we have left. And this is the lesson that I also learned from a very good friend of mine who's a 2-time survivor. Today you could walk out and, God forbid, get in a car wreck and your life would be over. So being a survivor or somebody who's in treatment doesn't change that. You don't know how many days you have left. But what really matters is how you spend the days that you are here. So every day that you wake up, that's another day that God gave you. And regardless of what you're going through, whether you're in a bed and you can't get up, or whether you're fully functioning and you're able to go do the things that you want to, you enjoy that day to the fullest. So when your time is up, you can say, regardless of how many days it was, you actually lived. So some of the things that I did to kind of help myself through this is there was a lot of offerings at the hospital. And this is something that I really didn't remember seeing, when my mother was going through her cancer treatments, which would have been about 5 or 6 years earlier. I took all my treatments at Norton's Hospital, still do. They would have music therapy for patients. They would have yoga sessions for patients because, studies show that yoga really helps people who are in treatment kind of keep their energy up and kind of deal with any pain that may come along. One thing that I loved, because as you know, I'm a makeup fanatic, is that I was able to go to the hospital and take a makeup session that taught us how to, cover up discoloration that may come with chemo, and how to put on a wig for the first time. I never worn a wig until I went through treatment, and now I love my wigs. That's something, that I got from that. And that's because being a woman, and even men, it's hard for your parents to change, and you're already not feeling well. And every day you don't want to go out and be seen as somebody who's sick. Now, don't get me wrong. The days when I didn't feel like putting on makeup and I went out with no eyebrows and a scarf tied around my head, people were very very accommodating, very sweet, but some days you just want to be normal like everyone else. Some days you just want people to see you as who you are and not that cancer patient. So being able to take that class and still feel like I can look like everybody else was so helpful. Um, I had a good friend of mine take me to Gillis Club for their Nookie Fest that they have every year. And they had a lot of activities for kids, when their parents are going through treatment, and being around other people who were survivors and were able to share their stories. And also, this is very important. So if you're listening and you are a caretaker, the people around me made my experience a wonderful experience. Yes, there were days when I would just do my work and lay on the couch and I couldn't get up. And, the kids almost had to fend for themselves with dinner. And people close to me would come and bring me food or bring me groceries and bring me little pink blankets and um, just a lot of wonderful stuff. I met a lot of wonderful people at work who were so happy to give to me whatever they could. And what I got, I think the most astounding lesson that I got from that was talking to my boss at the time. And I was like, wow, I just can't believe people are doing this for me. And she was like, Keita, people are just giving you back the love that you give to everybody else. When we announced that you were going through this, people were more than happy to help. And it's because of you've always been happy to help everybody else and do it with a smile. And that is one of the deepest lessons that I learned attached to breast cancer. My good friend, who I told you went through it twice, put me onto a book by Louise Hay called Heal Thyself. And there are a lot of lessons attached with a lot of diseases. And as I mentioned before, breast cancer is making sure that you are getting the love that you put back out into the world in return. And through my cancer journey, I got that. And I will say, after I went through it, it changed me as a person. I wouldn't say that into my adulthood I had like self-esteem issues, but I guess I just did not realize the effect that I had on other people. And that's not to say it in a bragging way, but I do try to exude love whenever I can, but I had to learn not to go overboard with doing for other people and not practice self-care. I did get a lot of massages. I did Reiki at the hospital while I was sick, and it was a very deeply spiritual experience. And a lot of those things, I still do for myself. And I make sure that I balance my life now. There's certain things or anything that I cannot give too much energy to if it's going to cause me anxiety or cause me stress. Because at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. There's things in life that are more important than things that will stress you and things that will cause you a lot of grief. So, also another great thing that I did was a lot of times I would find something funny that I like to watch and just put it on and just laugh, because laughter is very, very healing. And I learned that through my journey. So I would say, it's not going to always be easy. There were times, when the chemo would kind of make me kind of groggy brained. And so what I would do was get me a crossword puzzle and just work it while I put my son on the bus. But I made sure to do, whenever someone would say, you want to go do this, you want to go do that. And I made sure to enjoy the holidays, even though I wasn't always able to eat everything I wanted to, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So if you are diagnosed, if you know someone who is diagnosed, smile is a big, big lesson that you want to get in your spirit early on. And then even after, I still have to sometimes put on something funny and just laugh because that worry can set in. Smile, laugh, enjoy life. None of us know how many days we have, but we do know how we can enjoy the day that we do have. So that would be it for this lesson. If you have any comments or you want to share your particular journey, go ahead and share it in the comment section. Always remember to like and share. And as I always say, you can have the life that you want. You just have to be willing to do the work.